today's topic, we're going to talk about why explaining more isn't making you appear strategic. So, tell me if this sounds like you. You're the one that everybody relies on to get things done, but your leadership, your senior managers, your executives don't see you fully as a strategic leader. They're still seeing you as the person who is great at getting things done. Your leadership, this can include also your colleagues or your direct leadership or the senior leaders along in your organization. They second guess your judgment, or they want to make sure that everything is right. So they ask to have for extra sign-offs on any of your decisions, or at least the bigger decisions. Or you might be finding yourself, well, I need to defend or continuously explain my choices in every single meeting. There's also this part, or it could be this, a small voice that says, well, maybe they don't quite see me as ready for the next level. And I've even had clients who've on their performance reviews have gotten that feedback. Well, great team player, just not ready yet for a next step. And you may be trying to project authority, but it feels like you're pretending, and it's not landing at all. Now, if any of this feels familiar, you're not alone, because this is exactly what I hear from so many of the high-performing women that I work with who are ready for more, but are not fully trusted as decision makers just yet. Now, here's what a lot of women, before we start working together, I see what they're doing. And I have done this in the past too, when I was really working on getting my leadership to start trusting me with bigger decisions, as well as seeing me as ready to take that next step. So I was saying yes to just about everything, every project that came by, everything. Oh, like, here, Kim, can you manage this crisis for a minute? Saying yes just to prove that I was ready. When it came time to present either decisions, or I remember specifically I had I was given a crisis to manage, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to plan a meeting in with the senior leaders because I need to explain this decision. I need to explain all the facts, all the actions that we took, just to show the logic behind it. And I was holding back on any of the ideas, and you might be doing this too, where I wasn't 100% sure how to avoid any of the risks that were involved. So I was just going to keep that one under wraps. Now, the problem is when you're saying yes to everything, when you're over explaining, when you're not sharing those ideas, this behavior, each of these behaviors are a signal to your leaders, to your colleagues, to everybody else that's watching, that you're tactical, you're operational sufficient, but you are not ready to be strategic. They actually make your leaders, your managers, trust you less for those high-level decisions, because you are essentially seeking their permission. Now, here's a truth that not everyone is going to tell you. And I have to say, I covered this yesterday inside a coaching session with my clients as well. It's like, this is something that people don't talk about. And that is that you're over-explaining and you're overdoing doesn't build trust, but it actually erodes it. Now, I want you to think about when, for example, you're in the hospital, you go to the hospital, right? Because I get where this comes from. I am a great over-explainer. But imagine yourself, you're in the hospital and you're seeing a top surgeon. They don't list every single step of the operation to prove that they're skilled at it. They say, here's the diagnosis, here's what we're going to do. That's the authority, and that's the trust and the belief that your leaders, your managers are looking for. And that's what leadership trusts. Similarly, if you've been in a meeting with a CEO, or even watched, I used to be, one of the big things I did with, especially with the multinational companies, is was listening in on the shareholder calls with CEOs, that they were talking with the reporters. Why? Because think of that CEO, whether they're in a board meeting or they are presenting to shareholders, other stakeholders, right? They don't walk in and list every single step that they took in order to prove their competence, but they lead with the decision, the business impact that came out of it, and where it positions the company next. That's what makes that CEO trusted as a strategic leader. Now, like I shared, I was just coaching on this. And if this is familiar for you, please let me know. Drop in the comments if you got questions. I'd love to hear where you're watching from. I love answering questions as well. So let's make this as engaging as possible. And I just wanted to let you know a quick thing in here. If you are ready to be a leader that's trusted with big decisions, not just the reliable doer, and I'm going to share with you how you can start to shift that already. I've got 3 private coaching spots open this month. So DM me or comment the word trusted to see if that's a fit for you. Now let's dive into what you can do about it. Okay, great. So I should not be over explaining and I shouldn't be overdoing things, but what am I supposed to do then? Wow. One of the, as I said, this came up in a session yesterday, and this was one of my clients' exact issues. She just said to me, she's like, Kim, I realize I'm over explaining, but especially when the subject is on me, especially when it's a subject that I've been assigned or it's part of my job responsibilities, it's very hard for me to avoid over explanation. And how do I deal with that? How do I deal with also giving that pushback to senior leaders if I'm the one that's, having to defend this decision or defend the recommendation? Now, I get that this can be a challenge, right? When you're personally the subject, you've poured your heart into that project or that recommendation or even the decision that you're putting there. There's this instinct that can kick in, goes like, okay, well, I need to justify this. I need to give you all of the facts. And it's like trying to get so much information and you're drinking from a fire hose. But here's the truth. Explaining more doesn't protect you from leadership asking questions or what the decision is going to be made by leadership. What it does, the extra explanation is going to actually make leadership question your confidence in that recommendation and in that decision. With all of that extra detail, they're also getting lost in the weeds. So one thing I would ask of you, even just as a simple question, is like, okay, do you notice that people's eyes glaze over or you've kind of lost their attention because you keep explaining more, even though you're very passionate about this recommendation or the topic? And when it comes to pushback, don't handle it by adding more and more details in. That's like trying to get, it's summer, we'll stick to an ice cream example. That's like having someone ask for a chocolate covered ice cream, right? Like soft cone chocolate covered in chocolate dip. Well, and then adding more and more chocolate thinking, hey, well, they didn't like the ice cream. It must be that I didn't add enough detail to it. I didn't add enough chocolate to it. But the pushback should not be handled by giving more information, more details, but handled more in the sense of like, give them the clarity and the strategic framing of it. So how do you push back on those senior leaders, on those executives, and stand firm without over-explaining yourself? Now, this is where my strategic trust framework comes in. It's 3 parts, right? 3-part strategic trust framework for building leadership trust. The first one, come with decisive clarity. So what should you be doing? Lead with your decision or your recommendation, or lead with the result or the outcome, right? This is the big headliner. This is what everybody's waiting for. Let's make sure to hook their attention in by leading with that. Don't bury that somewhere towards the end of your explanation. The second part is about your business impact. How does this align with organizational goals? You want to tie that to the broader goals of the organization, because that allows you to also demonstrate with that you've been able to take what you're doing, what you're responsible for, what you're recommending, or the decision you've made, linking it to strategy within the organization. Now, this last piece can be more impactful and also gets overlooked almost 99% of the time. And this is future signaling. What do I mean by that? You tie that decision, that recommendation to long-term outcomes, which also showcases your ability to think long-term. That is what being strategic is about. It's about having a vision. It's about connecting the dots beyond just what is within your purview. Now, this extra step positions you as someone that's thinking beyond just the task and the responsibility that you have, which is what makes leadership trust you as being more strategic. Now, for example, and this is not my client's example, this is just an example that I came up with. Before, you might have said, well, we ran 3 different analyses and I discussed it with the team, so we think we should. Now, I know I hammed it up a little bit, but let's be honest. A lot of that you might think in the first, like, okay, well, hey, they're making a recommendation. Right. Except the first part of that, we ran 3 analyses and discussed it with the team. That's task. That's what you did. No one's interested in that. We want to know the conclusion. Give me the meat. So we think we should also highlights a lot of more the lack of confidence that you have because you're posing it forward as like, I think we should, but only if you think we should. So we want to avoid that. For example, when you put this 3-part trust framework into practice, right? Remember, decisive clarity, show the business impact, as well as future signal, tie your decision to long-term outcomes. Here's what you could be saying instead. I recommend prioritizing Project X. It will save 50,000 euros this quarter. That is your impact. And positions us to expand into the market XYZ by Q1 next year. Now, you've also started to link it to a future goal. Now, where I want you to see how this works is because these are very simple shifts that you can start making in your communication. That is going to impart a very different perspective or perception of you as an individual, but also you as a leader within your organization. Now, oftentimes when it comes to making like the decisions, right, we have different levels. Now, I have an entire video on the levels of value. There's 5 different levels of value that you can bring to an organization, and the higher that you go, the more valuable that value that you bring to the organization, of course. But in this, and if you want that one, then comment value or DM me value, and I will send you a link to that training as well. When it comes to thinking about yourself, at what level are you speaking at? Think about this way. If you are a doer, you're reporting, or an individual contributor, you're reporting on tasks and report and what you've executed. If you are what I gave you in that first example, you're the problem solver. Hey, I'm getting all these issues. I'm getting all these different things. What you're doing is you're bringing options, but you're still waiting for someone else to approve it. When you get to that showing up as a strategic leader, you're bringing your recommendations, you're bringing the impact, and you're bringing the foresight. So most of the women, before we start working together, they're stuck usually at that problem solver level because leadership can't really fully trust you because they still see you as being very tactical, very operational. It's when you start to bring those recommendations, the impact, and the foresight, right? As I said, that future signaling, you're going to start bringing that in. That is when they start coming to you first because they trust that you have the capacity to also give more of a strategic input. And that is how you position yourself as being ready for that next level. Now, one of my clients felt like this in the very beginning. We started working together. Every decision was challenged. She was tired of over explaining. And this was even in her own management level with her colleagues, but also with her senior leaders as well. When we started implementing this framework, she was getting her CEO to start seeking out her input first. She's now recognized as a key decision maker and is on track for her next promotion. Now, again, I'm going to repeat this here. If you're ready to be the leader they trust for big decisions, not the reliable doer, it is going to come down to increasing not only, indeed, like I shared today, this framework around how do you position your results, your recommendations, your decisions, but there's also other elements that go into it in order to make it one big successful move for you to be seen and recognized as a strategic leader. Now, I have 3 private one-on-one coaching spots open this month. If you want one of those and they go fast, I want you to DM me or comment trusted to see if it's a fit for you. And I have a special offer as well. Tomorrow I'm hosting a brainstorm. This brainstorm is going to be on the topic of creating high-performing teams. So how do you hold them accountable, delegate, and do that so that it's made simple for you so that you get some time back to be able to be more strategic. If you want to join that, DM me or comment the word brainstorm, and I'll send you those details. Now remember, you don't earn trust by defending yourself even more, by explaining even more. You earn it by leading with clarity, impact, and foresight. If you're ready to step into that, then DM me trusted, because I've only got 3